This is Mark and Charity's Coffee Podcast.
It's the Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast for Thursday, February 3rd. Coming up in the podcast today, great guest, Pierre McGuire, longtime broadcaster. We know him from Between the Glass, they would call it, down on the ice. But he's got quite a storied hockey history as a player, former general manager of the Hartford Whalers, now the senior vice president for player development for the Ottawa Senators. So how much of his day-to-day operation is taken up with the Belleville Senators, and what does an actual hockey player development VP look for that maybe the average fan doesn't in deciding who gets to move up and who's got to come down? So an interesting chat with Pierre coming up later on in the podcast. And it's great to have Charity on her own podcast today, because for a while, you weren't even on your own show today.
Well, I was going to say, the Pierre McGuire chat was so good. Very well done. I was looking forward to talking to him myself, too. But yeah, that didn't happen. Technical difficulties. Such is life.
We've got weather. We've got technology. But, we'll get it back. You're going to be back in studio on Monday anyway, so we look forward to that.
Yes, and I cannot wait. Don't get me wrong. It's incredible, and I've said this the whole time. And because we've been through this for the last 2 years, me going back and forth, the ability to work from separate locations and still put together a show and still be able to do this is amazing. And I don't take it for granted for one moment. But yeah, there are still those hiccups that bring it all back to, I don't want to say reality, but just back to the basics, and it makes it real again. And it's very interesting.
You're going to find some changes that are not welcome when you get here. Like, for example, the booth no longer has a wood stove. Your home studio.
I am going to miss that, to bring blankets with me so I'm warm enough.
Your home studio has a wood stove. We're without wood stoves. On the other hand, when you're here, we don't have children interrupting the show. So it's sort of a balance.
That is a balance for sure.
Sort of a balance. But we'll begin with yesterday on the podcast. We didn't have time to cover it, and we definitely want to now. And that is, the list of nominees are out for the 2022 induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And we can run through them if you want, or we can start once again with Pat Benatar is where I always start with. How is she not in already, and what is it finally going to take to get her enough votes to get in the darn thing?
Exactly. On that list, Eurythmics also jumped out at me. I thought, really? They haven't been inducted yet? And first-time nominee, and I'm surprised by this, but Duran Duran, this is their first time on the list. Ever.
Yeah. 25 years after their first released recording is what makes them eligible. So we're looking now at the 1996-97 crowd, which it brings in Eminem. So Eminem is now available, and he's on the list. So it includes, alphabetically, Beck, Pat Benatar, Kate Bush, Devo, Duran Duran, Eminem, Eurythmics, Judas Priest, Fela Kuti, MC5, New York Dolls, Dolly Parton, which we'll get back to, Rage Against the Machine, Lionel Richie, Carly Simon, A Tribe Called Quest, and Dionne Warwick. So there's a few in there that, for example, A Tribe Called Quest and Fela Kuti that I don't know, but I give a lot of credit to the R&R Hall of Fame, because they do lean a lot on people who influence. So maybe if it's not pop, success on the Billboard Hot 100 doesn't mean that their influence within rock and roll isn't just as important to those musicians. So, before you vote, you just don't vote for your favorites. But when I hear Pat Benatar, Lionel Richie, Carly Simon, who've been around a long time, when their songs comes on, everybody turns them up. I just don't understand why it's taken so long.
Well, and I'm glad you said we'd come back to her, because Dolly Parton is the one I don't understand. I love Dolly, and she has been influential, certainly in her own right. But there's something, country keeps coming to mind, and I think, is it appropriate for her to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Really? It surprises me.
Okay, I'll put on another hat.
Am I wrong?
No.
You tell me.
In another, I'll put on another hat to be fair and consistent, I guess. Is when I was campaigning in my own little way to get Neil Diamond into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, or the Carpenters, who had massive, massive appeal and influenced many. The argument that my friends or listeners would have is, well, that's not true rock and roll. Okay, so it's really then based on loudness of music, messaging that softer performers like Neil Diamond or Paul Simon of the Carpenters aren't welcome. But they have been welcomed. So then are we saying, okay, it's non-country? Because Dolly Parton crossed over very well with 925. She wrote, I Will Always Love You. And there aren't too many female performers that have had long careers that don't point to Dolly Parton as at least an influence. So it would be inconsistent or hypocritical of me to say, no, she doesn't belong. I guess from a musical point of view, I could make the argument she belongs, but I don't know if I would say Alan Jackson belongs. Exactly, right?
I get what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. To me, I think she is just and you're right. She certainly had an influence on musical artists, probably more female than male. But the music industry as a whole, certainly not disputing that. But does she necessarily belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame over someone like Pat Benatar?
Right.
I don't think so. Mm-hmm. Dolly Parton is first and foremost, I'd say, a country artist. So the Country Music Hall of Fame, hands down, absolutely, they should have a statue of her out front. I can understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, it's that no, I can't see her being inducted over someone like Pat Benatar or Lionel Richie or any of the other ones, even Eminem. That wouldn't sit well with me.
So you wouldn't like her to be inducted. Do you think it's a mistake to even nominate her?
No, because I think that's showing acknowledgement. So they've shown acknowledgement to her, and I think maybe that's why. I don't know, but I don't think she needs to necessarily be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if she does go in.
Whole bunch of voting is going to go on, and then what are we going to do? We're going to find out in a short list pretty well. Those 17, then they get pared down, and then
in May they do that. The ceremony's in the fall,
and then we're going to argue about all that again because we do that.
We'll have another argument discussion over it
every year. I mean, not just you and me. I mean, everybody. But you're right, I suppose.
There'll be someone they leave off.
Yeah, as an 80s, 90s, and now station, to see Eurythmics and Pat Benatar and Lionel Richie left off and some of the other people who have been inducted, then you sort of shrug off and say, well, then I guess chart success doesn't mean anything, let alone everything, to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So that's pretty darn interesting. It's great to have Pierre McGuire, the longtime broadcaster. He's also the Senior Vice President of Player Development for the Ottawa Senators. Quite guy. He's been spending some time up and down the 401. We had him on the show this morning. And I was surprised, Charity, when he mentioned that this was his fourth time to Belleville, because I figured he would call us every time he came here.
Well, he will now.
We can finally get back in and enjoy the games in the arena. If you are going to the game tomorrow night, once again, and for the next little while, if you're a season ticket holder, the Belleville Senators would appreciate an email just letting them know, confirming that you'll use your seats, because with the capacity limit at 500, if there are only going to be 450 season ticket holders that have confirmed, then they know they can sell 50 more seats. Concessions are going to open tomorrow night for the Friday night game against Syracuse, and we had Pierre on this morning talking about the state of the organization, and it was great to have him on the show. According to your bio, by the way, your birth name, your first name is Regis?
Yeah, that was my late father's first name, correct.
Okay, with my last name, Philbin, I get Regis a lot, so it may only be you and I. We may be the only two left.
There you go. And
in your capacity as Senior VP for Player Development, how much of your day-to-day duties revolve around the Belleville Senators?
A lot. Whether I'm here, which I'm right now, I'm here, or on the phone with the coaches or with the players, or traveling with the team from time to time, seeing them on the road. Fair bit. Development is a huge part of any National Hockey League team, and being around the Belleville Senators has been tremendous for our organization for a long period of time. I love working with these coaches and these players and watching them get better from day to day. So it's actually been a really fruitful exercise for me.
Okay, but actually being in town, so are you here sort of as an overall temperature check on the team, or with the season rolling on up top, are you starting to have an eye on a specific player or two to plug a hole up in Ottawa?
Well, we've been doing that all year long, bringing players up, sending players back. That's just part of the process. This is probably my fourth trip into Belleville this year. I've seen them on the road many times in a lot of different locations. whether it be Laval, whether it be Rochester, New York, whether it be in Toronto. So we do a lot as an organization, as a staff, and I'm just part of that. But yeah, no, it's great to be in Belleville. You get to spend a little bit more time with the players and the coaches. I've been here since Tuesday morning, and you get to spend a lot of time just visiting with players, not just talking about hockey, but talking about life in general.
Yeah, Pierre McGuire, Senior VP of Player Development for the Ottawa Senators, longtime broadcaster on the show with Mark and Charity Mornings. And Pierre, what development skills do you look for that perhaps are invisible to the 4,000 other VPs of player development in the stands that determines to you that a player's ready to make that leap?
Well, a lot of times it comes down to pace in their game, but I think the biggest thing that people don't talk about enough is character and work habit. We're looking for players that have really well-defined work habits. We're looking for players that clearly have character and are prepared to do whatever it takes to win without crossing the line. You look for guys that really care about paying attention to the details of the game and how the coaches coach the game and the systems that are being deployed. So there's a lot that we really look for, but quite frankly, I think character is probably one of the things that you need to spend a lot of time around players to evaluate character, and that's one of the reasons why I think Troy Mann and his coaching staff do such a great job. They really taught these players how to compete and how to really care about one another.
Younger coaches and volunteers for youth hockey, is there something similar to that? Is there an area of their development that maybe is being ignored that you at a higher level wish could be taught to the 10, 12, 13-year-olds moving up?
Well, I think anybody that gets involved in hockey usually does it because they just love the game. I think as a weeding out process goes, as players start to drop by the sidelines and play less competitive hockey, some played more, but some played less. The ones that usually play less competitive hockey, it's just that passion level doesn't go to the next level. And that's you can't really teach that. Players either have it or they don't. It's just intrinsic more times than not in terms of their character and their being. But again, you look at it, hockey's supposed to be fun for everybody, and that's what it's supposed to be. But I would tell you, if you're going to make or continue to make the next leap, Mark, to professional hockey or major junior hockey or U.S. college hockey, chances are you've got an unbelievable motor and really a competitive nature.
Yeah, Pierre McGuire again joining us, Senior VP of Player Development for the Ottawa Senators in town. Good win last night for the boys. And before we let you go, you've got such a storied career in hockey with, broadcasting as well. You've seen so much. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're in Belleville. And the fact that Jacob Panetta's from Belleville, Jordan Subban played in Belleville, and you've been around hockey in so many different capacities. Is that a bit of an isolated incident, or do you believe the hockey culture is becoming more inclusive, or do we still have a far way to go?
I think everything is always a work in progress. I do think that there's more attention being paid to it. I think that people are adjusting. It kind of mirrors society, so to speak. But there's really not much, Mark, that I can say about it. I wasn't there. I didn't witness the incident. Feel badly. I know the Subban family extremely well. I'm very good friends with PK. I also met young Mr. Panetta when I was speaking at an event down at Colgate University. So I wish that I know more about the situation. I just don't, so I don't think it's appropriate for me to comment. But what I can comment on is what's going on with hockey right now. And Commissioner I can just speak to it at the NHL level. Commissioner Bettman, I know for a fact, is really aware of these things in the National Hockey League, and I do think the culture has improved significantly. And I know that Hockey Canada and USA Hockey is also very well aware of these types of situations, and I think that everybody would like to see them disappear, just like everybody in society would like to see them go away in the appropriate way and everybody be respected properly.
Mm-hmm. Pierre McGuire joined us. We appreciate it. You looking forward to the Winter Olympics?
Yeah, I wish I was working them, but I'm not because I have a different capacity. I've worked the Winter Olympics and the Summer Olympics since 2002. So, you know what? I love watching the Olympics. I think it's a really important time of the year. Unfortunately, NHL players won't be there. But no, I find the Olympics to be really special. And, for over almost 20 years, I had a chance to do them and be involved. And I'll never forget the 2010 Olympics. Just phenomenal.
That's
really
amazing.
Great.
And women off to a great start with a 12-1 rout over Switzerland last night. But hey, as long as they make golf differential important, you got to run up the score.
No, goal differential does matter in international events, but the one thing I'd say is the showdown's going to happen between the U.S. and Canada, and that will be just magnificent hockey to watch when the American women and the Canadian women play one another. It'll be phenomenal.
Yeah. Hey, enjoy your time in Belleville. Thanks for all your continued efforts on making the team great, and good luck up in Ottawa. We appreciate it.
I really appreciate that. Thanks a lot, Mark. Take care of yourself.
What a great chat.
Well, he's such an interesting guy, and his voice around the hockey, particularly around the Olympics, is iconic because it shows up in some of those games. You know, him mentioning 2010, it was almost like I wish he hadn't done that at the end of the conversation because I had the goosebumps in the back of my neck. It brought it all back. And now I wish I had gone back and talked to him and started with that. Hey, remember 2010? You know, and then take off from there. Because
when he calls us the next time he's in town, you can ask him. Yeah,
well, you know, maybe we'll phone him again in a couple of hours. So coming up tomorrow morning, coming up tomorrow morning on the show, the beginning of the Olympics, and boy, I'll tell you, Charles Hamlin, what an incredible story as an Olympian. He and Ms. Poulin are going to be our flag bearers, but his story is a 37-year-old, 5-time Olympian, and should he win 3 medals, should he medal in the 3 events he's in, he would be the most decorated Canadian Olympian, winter or summer, of all time.
Amazing. Just amazing.
That begins at 7 o'clock our time, so we'll get you set for that tomorrow morning, and then we've got your dad joke on Galaxy of Games. That one's ready to go. That's a middle-of-the-road 7 out of 10 joke, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Am I going to be able to guess the punchline this week?
Yes. I do believe you will.
Really?
I believe you will, which is all I'm not going to play it for.
I have such a hard time with the dad joke. Good. Don't do that.
Oh, it's such a good one. All that coming up tomorrow morning. You have a great Thursday, okay? We'll chat tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Mark and Charity Coffee Podcast here on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, new on Amazon Music, and linked right here off of our social media sites. You can subscribe so you get it every day, uploaded by 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. As we broadcast Mark and Charity Mornings out of 95.5 Hits FM in Belleville. Enjoy your day. We'll talk tomorrow.